imagine for a second that you were just walking down the street
Right.
and you're carrying this massive backpack that is just completely stuffed with jagged, heavy rocks.
Oh, sounds awful.
Right. Your neck is aching. Your knees are practically buckling with every single step, and you are just absolutely exhausted.
Yeah, you'd be miserable.
Exactly. But now, imagine that every time someone walking by gently suggests, hey, maybe just put the backpack down, you instinctively clutch the straps tighter and you scream, I can't. These are my life savings.
That is, I mean, it's a really striking image, and unfortunately, it's a highly accurate diagnosis of, well, the modern human condition.
Yeah.
We just exhaust ourselves carrying these burdens that we were never actually meant to carry.
And that tension, that exact feeling of carrying rocks, is what we are exploring in today's deep dive. We're immersing ourselves in the really profound spiritual teachings of Guru Nanak Dev Ji.
Right.
Specifically, we're looking at his writings composed in Rag Dhanaasaree. And before we go any further, I think it's crucial to clarify what a rag actually is.
Yeah.
Because it completely changes how we approach this wisdom, right? It's not just a chapter title.
No, not at all. It's a highly specific musical framework. It's designed to evoke a very distinct emotional state.
Right, which is vital context.
Yeah, because Guru Nanak didn't just write these, dry philosophical essays to be read quietly in some library. These verses were meant to be sung.
Oh, wow.
And Rag Dhanaasaree in the traditional Indian classical system is typically performed in the afternoon.
Okay, the afternoon.
Yeah. And think about what the afternoon represents in your normal day. It's when the hustle is just at its absolute peak.
Oh, yeah, the 2 p.m. slump.
Exactly. It's when the stress of the day is fully weighing on you and you're most likely to feel just totally overwhelmed by your responsibilities.
Right, it's when that backpack of rocks feels the heaviest.
Precisely. And the mood that Rag Dhanaasaree is designed to evoke is one of cheerful detachment and grounded inspiration.
Cheerful detachment, I like that.
Yeah, so this wisdom is intentionally delivered as this soothing, stabilizing anchor right in the middle of our most chaotic, worldly moments.
It's meeting you where you are.
Exactly. It doesn't tell you to run away to a cave. It offers you a radical alternative for how to exist right in the middle of your daily struggles.
Which is exactly why this deep dive is for you, listening right now. Whether you're feeling totally overwhelmed by the endless pursuit of success, or you're just insanely curious about how ancient Eastern philosophy maps onto our modern neuroses.
Absolutely.
But to get to that alternative, to figure out how to actually put the backpack down, we have to start at the foundation. We have to understand the actual rules of the universe we're living in, which this text calls hukam.
Yes, because you can't navigate reality if you are actively blind to its underlying architecture.
Right.
So hukam roughly translates to the divine command or the divine will. And the core argument here is that the creator is infinite. It's this active, all-encompassing presence that creates and destroys everything.
Of everything.
Yeah. Guru Nanak observes that the call of death, the actual rhythm of existence, is sent out by this command, and no one can challenge it. There is, as the verse states, a written command above each and every head.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to a modern ear, especially like a secular one, that can sound incredibly heavy.
You can, yeah.
If I try to map this onto a modern analogy, is hukam essentially like a cosmic operating system, like an inescapable background code running the entire universe?
That is a highly effective way to visualize it, actually. Think about it. An operating system dictates the parameters of what is possible within the environment of a computer.
Right.
You can't just wish the core code to be different because you find it inconvenient. Hukam is the ultimate reality. It's the definitive law of physics for the soul.
Think of it like the law of gravity.
Right.
You can spend your entire life furious that you can't fly by flapping your arms.
Yes.
You can exhaust yourself jumping off chairs and falling flat on your face.
Right.
And the text actually addresses this kind of exhaustion. It mentions that there are 2 paths in the world by which conflict increases, and that everyone follows these paths by the hukam of the Lord's command.
Mm-hmm.
But this is where I really struggle and where I want to push back a little bit.
Go ahead.
If everything is dictated by this inescapable cosmic operating system, including the conflict, and including these 2 paths that just lead to the world being born only to die, doesn't that just breed fatalism?
I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, like if there's a command written above my head, what is the point of my free will?
Yeah.
Do I just quit my job, sit on the couch, and wait for the end because the code is already written?
What's fascinating here is that it's a completely natural question, but assuming it leads to fatalism is actually a misunderstanding of the operating system.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The wisdom here isn't advocating for passivity at all. It is diagnosing human ignorance.
Okay.
Guru Nanak points out that the mortal comes into the world by this hukam, but, and this is the really critical distinction, the mortal does not understand the hukam.
Ah, so the suffering isn't caused by the code itself. The suffering is caused by our ignorance of the code.
Precisely. To use your gravity analogy from earlier, gravity isn't inherently evil because it makes you fall when you jump off a chair.
Right.
The conflict and the pain come from your delusion that you can defy it.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Enlightenment, in this context, isn't learning to miraculously fly. It is learning to build a solid house that utilizes gravity to stay firmly grounded.
Wow. Okay.
We're caught in these two paths, which symbolize the duality of worldly attachment and ego-driven conflict, and we mistakenly think we're the programmers of the universe.
When we're really just users.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Recognizing the divine command is the first step out of that cycle of doubt. The operating system isn't the enemy. Our delusion that we are in control is the enemy.
That flips the entire script. So if we are exhausting ourselves fighting gravity, if failing to understand hukam is what traps us in this cycle of conflict, what exactly is making us so blind to it? What's distracting us so thoroughly?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the observation moves from the macro-level mechanics of the universe right down to the micro-level reality of human desire, and it points the finger directly at our worldly appetites.
It really does.
Yeah.
And with such incredible bluntness.
Oh, yeah.
There's this one question posed in the verses that just stopped me in my tracks because it is so intensely relatable. It asks, I am hungry and thirsty for wealth. How will I be able to go to the Lord's court?
It's very direct.
It is. I mean, I look at my own life. I remember a time a few years ago where I spent 3 straight months stressing over a promotion at work.
We've all been there.
Yeah. And I completely neglected my friends. My sleep was terrible. I was constantly agitated. And when I finally got the promotion, the happiness lasted maybe like 12 hours.
Yeah.
And then I was immediately just worrying about the next role, the next rung on the ladder.
You were drinking salt water to quench your thirst.
Exactly. And I'm sure you, listening to this, have your own version of that exact story. How often does your mind spin entirely around that exact hunger, the thirst for more security, more money, more status?
Right.
But I'm curious, does this philosophy view that hunger as a moral failing? Like, is it judging us as sinners for just wanting a comfortable life?
If we look closely at the language, it is far less about moral judgment and much more about practical cause and effect.
Okay.
It frames this relentless pursuit not just as a sin in the, punitive Western sense, but as a literal crushing weight. It notes that instead of spiritual awareness, the mortal gathers the poison of worldly attachment, carrying loads of sin on his head.
Which brings us right back to that backpack full of rocks.
Yes, the heavy head. You can physically feel the toll of anxiety and greed in that phrase, and notice the consequence it highlights.
What's that?
It states that without the name of the Lord, which we will define shortly, the mortal has no friend at all.
That is a haunting line.
Yeah.
No friend at all.
It is. But it isn't saying you won't have drinking buddies or business associates if you chase wealth.
Right.
It's saying that at an existential level, without a spiritual anchor, all these worldly pursuits leave you fundamentally isolated.
Wow.
You are lost in the illusion of your own self-conceit. You are carrying this massive load of poison on your head, fiercely protecting it, mistaking it for treasure, and wondering why you feel so profoundly alone.
Mistaking poison for treasure.
Nah.
That is exactly what I was doing during those 3 months of stressing over a job title. I was ignoring the cosmic operating system running in the background.
Yeah.
So we have a very clear diagnosis here. We are exhausted, existentially friendless, and carrying a heavy load of ego and material thirst.
That's the baseline.
Right. The obvious question then becomes, how do we put the backpack down? What is the cure? And this is where the teachings introduce the concepts of the Shabbat, which translates to the word and the name of the Lord.
This is the pivot point of the entire philosophy. To cure this insatiable hunger for wealth and illusion, one must seek the wisdom of the true guru and meditate on the name.
Okay.
Through the Shabbat, the true creator is realized.
Now here's where it gets really interesting. We encounter a metaphor that I found absolutely mesmerizing.
The philosopher's stone.
Yes. It talks about chanting the ambrosial word, savoring it, and then it offers this image. Touching the philosopher's stone, they become the philosopher's stone, which transforms lead into gold.
It's beautiful.
It is the ultimate alchemy. But I really want to break down the mechanics of this because to a modern listener, chanting and alchemy can sound a bit like, magical thinking.
Sure.
How does meditating on the Shabad actively serve as a tool? How does it physically or psychologically turn the lead of our human self-conceit into the gold of spiritual enlightenment?
It is a stunning metaphor, and you are totally right to ask for the mechanics because it isn't describing magic at all. It is describing a radical, fundamental shift in human cognition and focus. Let's look at the lead. The lead is that heavy head we just talked about.
For rocks.
Exactly. It's the ego, the self-conceit, the endless, exhausting internal monologue that constantly says, I need more, I am in control, I am separate from everyone else.
Right. In modern psychology, we might even call that the default mode network in the brain, that part of our mind that just endlessly spins narratives about me and my problems whenever we aren't actively focused on a task.
That is a brilliant modern parallel. That's exactly it.
Thanks.
Now, the philosopher's stone in this context is the guru, the source of divine wisdom, and the practice of the Shabad. The verses talk about meditating on the name and speaking the unspoken speech.
Which sounds like a paradox.
It does, but this isn't about literal silence. It is about reaching a state of intuitive understanding where you no longer need to constantly rationalize your existence with that exhausting internal monologue. You just are.
So how does chanting actually achieve that state?
By constantly reorienting your mind toward the divine. When you engage in chanting the name, focusing entirely on the auditory, physical, and spiritual experience of the Creator, you are actively interrupting that default mode network.
Oh, I see. You're giving it a new job.
Exactly.
Ah.
You are savoring the ambrosial word with your tongue, which means you are giving your brain a different, sweeter anchor. You are literally starving the ego of its oxygen.
Wow.
Your mind's primary companion shifts from your own self-conceit to the infinite presence of the Hukam.
That makes so much sense. It is an act of rewiring. You are taking the exact same energy that was previously used to carry the poison of worldly wealth, and you're just redirecting it.
Yes.
You aren't destroying your mind. You're just changing its focal point.
Yeah. And the most beautiful, radical part of the alchemy metaphor is the second half. It doesn't just say that by touching the philosopher's stone you turn into gold.
What?
It says touching the philosopher's stone, they become the philosopher's stone.
They become the stone itself.
Yeah.
That completely changes the goal of the practice.
It absolutely does. It means that true spiritual transformation doesn't end with your own personal peace. It isn't just about you feeling relaxed.
Right, it's bigger than that.
When your self-conceit is truly eradicated, when you attain what Guru Nanak calls the immortal status, your very presence becomes a catalyst for others.
Oh, wow.
You elevate the people around you. You help turn their lead into gold simply by reflecting the truth of the Hukam in how you live.
You don't just get healed. You become a healer. You become an anchor for everyone else's chaotic afternoon.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean? Let's look at the final result of this process. If I actually manage to starve my ego of oxygen, if I stop fighting the cosmic operating system and transform this heavy lead into gold, what happens to my daily anxiety? What does that state of existence actually feel like on a random Tuesday morning?
We are given a very clear, visceral description of this state. The verse says, I live by your name, my mind is in ecstasy, Lord.
Ecstasy.
And it repeatedly describes the name as the sweetest essence.
Sweetest essence. That is such a stark contrast to the poison and the salt water of worldly attachment we talked about earlier.
It is the ultimate antidote because it introduces the concept of overcoming Maya.
Okay, Maya. Let's get into that.
Maya is a crucial term here. It is the profound illusion that the material world, the wealth, the status, the promotions you stressed over is the ultimate reality.
The thing making us thirsty.
Right. Maya is the mirage that keeps us drinking the salt water. By tasting the sweetest essence of the name, the illusion of Maya shatters.
Because you finally have something better to compare it to.
Exactly. Through this sweetness, all worldly thirst and desire are definitively stilled. The mind is subdued. It describes a daily practice of night and day, chanting the name of the merciful, immaculate Lord, who it notably calls the master of the poor, untouched by Maya.
Master of the poor. That is fascinating. It implies that realizing your own spiritual poverty, like admitting that your backpack of rocks is actually completely worthless, is the prerequisite for this ecstasy.
It is.
So when I look at this entire progression, I realize that true ecstasy, according to this deep dive, has absolutely nothing to do with the external world.
Nothing at all.
It isn't found in accumulating wealth. It isn't found in reaching the top of the corporate ladder, and it certainly isn't found in winning the conflicts of those two paths we discussed. It is 100% internal. It is found entirely in the sweetness of the true name.
This raises an important question for anyone listening right now. What essence are you tasting in your own life on a daily basis?
Yeah.
Are you constantly drinking the salt water of worldly ambition, wondering why you are only getting thirstier and more exhausted? Or are you seeking out that sweetest essence of the name?
It's a tough question to answer, honestly.
It is, because the ultimate embellisher of a human life isn't wealth or status or even our own cleverness. The ultimate embellisher is the hukam itself, once it is finally understood and accepted. When you stop fighting gravity and start moving in harmony with it, that is when the mind enters ecstasy.
It is a profound shift from trying to conquer reality to yielding to it. We have covered incredible ground today. We started by looking at the inescapable reality of hukam, this divine command that governs our coming and going.
Yep.
It's an operating system we so often fail to understand, causing us to fight against the very fabric of the universe.
And we examine the consequence of that ignorance, right? The exhausting, heavy burden of worldly wealth and ego. We looked at how we carry loads of poison on our heads, mistaking it for treasure, while remaining fundamentally isolated from true connection.
And then we explored the cure, the sheer alchemy of the Shabad and the Naam, the psychological and spiritual process of touching the philosopher's stone, starving the ego's default mode network, shedding our self-conceit, and not just turning our own lead into gold, but becoming the stone for others.
Which is the ultimate goal.
Right. All of this culminating in that beautiful internal state of daily ecstasy, piercing through the illusion of Maya to taste the sweetest essence of the true name.
It is a complete, practical roadmap out of suffering, provided we're willing to put down the heavy loads we're so fiercely attached to.
And that actually leads me to a final thought I want to leave you with today. We talked a lot about that heavy lead. Our ego, our self-conceit, our relentless hunger for wealth and status, the backpack of rocks.
Yeah.
It is so easy to view those things purely as negatives, as shameful mistakes we've made or character flaws we need to aggressively purge. But if the Shabad truly acts as a philosopher's stone that transforms lead into gold, well, an alchemist cannot make gold out of thin air. They require the lead.
That is a very compelling way to look at it. The raw material is necessary.
Exactly. Perhaps our worldly struggles, our deepest hungers, and all the heavy loads we've carried on our heads aren't just a waste of time or a string of regrets. Perhaps they're the exact raw material required for our spiritual transformation.
Wow.
The friction, the exhaustion, the utter failure of the treadmill to bring us peace, maybe that is precisely what finally pushes us to seek the true name. Without the heavy, dense lead of our human experience, there can be no gold of spiritual ecstasy. So thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. As you go out the rest of your day, take a moment to pause. Look at the ladder you've been climbing. Ask yourself what kind of essence you are tasting, and reflect on what loads you might be carrying on your own head right now. And maybe, just maybe, consider what it might feel like to finally put them down.